Welcome back to another episode of Rise to Liberty podcast. This is the very first official episode of the Satanic Panic Was Real series that I have decided to start. So, we're going to run through everything fairly quickly, although there is quite a bit to get through. Um, I don't think I quite realized exactly what I was getting myself into, which is, I think, why I decided to not do this series right away. Um, but once again, I mean, the longer I put it off, it's not gonna get any shorter, only longer. So just starting to have some realizations about exactly how many episodes that there are eventually going to be, which is why the episodes are going to be numbered in 3 digits. I don't know how far we're going, but we are going. So strap in. Like I said, this is the very first official episode. We're kind of just going to hit some basics today. Who Anton LaVey was, what the Church of Satan is, what LaVeyan Satanists believe, just kind of the overall arching theme of what this is, what we're talking about, what these people say, what they think, what they preach. We're just gonna kind of just do that, a good overall introduction to a lot of this. And we're gonna have to do this with several organizations actually. So the Church of Satan is just the first one to publicly do this and establish themselves as a bona fide religion under the Constitution. So this is kind of why we're starting here. Also, this is the introduction to Satanism for practically anybody in the United States. Obviously, there are going to be people that get into it other ways. There's going to be all sorts of manner in which people discover these ideas. However, the vast majority of people, I would say, are introduced to Satanism through Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan, the Satanic Bible, these sorts of things. So I think this is the best place to honestly start. So let's see here. Also, good evening, by the way. Good evening. I'm glad everyone is here. I'm excited for a really, really good show. I think this is going to be quite the show, quite the show. So I am here for it no matter how many there are. Thank you again, Jacob. Yes, of course. Thank you for being here. Just want to take just a couple of seconds to let everyone know, anyone watching this, whether you're watching it live or a replay, any point in the future, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into this, because without the viewers, I mean, it makes it kind of pointless. I'm doing this for all of you. And so just thank you. It really means the entire world to me. So on that note, let's just jump straight into it, shall we? So let's see here. Okay. So first and foremost, let's see. We don't want to start there. We want to start here. So the Church of Satan. Okay. This is one thing I wanted to do. I was thinking about going to all these different sources and speaking about my knowledge, which I will. But I think the absolute best place is to just hear it from their own mouth, from their own sources. And so this is where we are starting. So welcome to the official website of the Church of Satan. Founded on April 30th, 1966 by Anton Szandor LaVey. We are the first above ground organization in history to openly dedicated to the acceptance of man's true nature, that of a carnal beast living in a cosmos that is indifferent to our existence. To us, Satan is the symbol that best suits the nature of who we are, carnal by birth. People who feel no battles raging between our thoughts and feelings. We who do not embrace the concept of a soul imprisoned in a body. He represents pride, liberty, and individualism, qualities often defined as evil by those who worship external deity, who feel there is a war between their minds and emotions. Excuse me. As Anton LaVey explained in his classic work, The Satanic Bible, man, using his brain, invented all the gods, doing so because many of our species cannot accept or control their personal egos, feeling compelled to conjure up one or the multiplicity of characters who can act without hindrance or guilt upon whims and desires. Let's see here. I have something for this. Let's see here.
Do you believe in God? Do you believe in...
Oh, forgot the captions. So this is Anton LaVey being interviewed. The year, let's see. Give me just a sec. So 1975. The interviewee, or interviewer, sorry, is being asked or asking Anton LaVey if he believes in God, and this is his response.
Do you believe in God? Do you believe in Jesus Christ?
No, irrevocably not. I believe that the Godhead resides within oneself. I believe that man creates gods in accordance with his own needs, and if he doesn't, someone else will create them for him.
Who or what is Satan to you?
Satan is the essence of that which dwells within myself.
Would you explicate this?
Satan is the pioneer, the inventor, Prometheus. Satan has always been the scapegoat, the other, as Thomas Saz, the psychiatrist, calls him. He has always been the opposition to what has been established at the time, the counterbalance that creates change, that creates evolution, that sets the climate socially for modification. Because without this so-called evil, there could be no change.
All right, that's a different video, but that was, I mean, his response to whether he believes in God or not. So I did find that incredibly interesting, wanted to share that. All gods are thus externalized forms, magnified projections of the true nature of their creators, personifying aspects of the universe or personal temperaments, which many of their followers find to be troubling. Worshipping any god is thus worshipping by proxy those who invented that god. Since the Satanist understands that all gods are fiction, instead of bending a knee in worshipping to, or seeking friendship or unity with, such mystical entities, he places himself at the center of his own subjective universe as his own highest value. We Satanists are thus our own, quote, gods, as beneficent deities. We can offer love to those who deserve it, and deliver our wrath within reasonable limits upon those who seek to cause us or that which we cherish harm. So this is actually from an essay from Magus Gilmore. The essay is called "What is the Devil?" It is linked here on their page for anyone who wants to go find it. Otherwise, you can find it in the Satanic Scriptures as well, which is also linked. Now let's see. So Peter H. Gilmore, real quick for those who do not know. I assume nobody here knows, or if you do, hang tight. So Peter H. Gilmore, or Magnus Gilmore, has represented the Church of Satan since the Satanic Panic of the 1980s, being interviewed on numerous television and radio programs dealing with the topic of Satanism, including appearances on the History Channel, BBC, the Sci-Fi Channel, Point of Inquiry, and Bob Larson's Christian radio show. His audio, video, and print interviews are numerous and continue to grow, making him the most interviewed Satanist in history. Just saying, Peter H. Gilmore always has always welcome on this platform to be able to discuss any of these ideas. I would love to be able to get some people on here who actually still practice Satanism. For anyone new, I myself am a former Satanist, which is kind of why I'm going through this the way that I am. I no longer believe or practice in pretty much anything related to this. But this is also why I feel as though I have a certain, I don't like the word authority, but I do have a certain authority on the matter. And I feel as though this is a good way for me to be able to bring awareness to these ideas, to be able to spread this knowledge so people actually understand what this is. Satanism is a really large umbrella term. And I think we need to break that down, get a really good understanding. So that's what I'm trying to do, trying to make up for past transgressions. And I feel like this is one way I can definitely do it. I've heard the name before, but don't know about him. Yes. So as far as I know, Peter Gilmore is still actively engaged in the Church of Satan. I haven't seen any new interviews as of late, but yeah, so he is a high priest of the Church of Satan. We'll get into the structure and all of that at a later date, but let's see. Let's start with I guess the sigil of Baphomet. Okay, so the history of the origin of the sigil of Baphomet and its use in the Church of Satan. So, for anyone who doesn't know, this very common satanic symbolism, this is what's considered to be sigil or sigil magic. We'll once again get into that at a later date, exactly what it is and how it works, how it functions. That'll probably come up more in a witchcraft episode or, Wicca episode. But so this standard symbolism, it is a sigil. I've heard it pronounced both ways. And it's basically like an incantation, I guess you could say. So let's see. Variations on a theme. There are many variations of the Baphomet. If you would like to see some notable versions, click here. None are owned by the Church of Satan, and you should contact the artist for permission to use them. In fact, I'll just pull that up. Oh, that's kind of interesting. So, Baphomet varieties. Below is a collection of Baphomet variants we have seen. So, a bunch of album covers. Of course, Venom, for anyone who's familiar with heavy metal. Like the first black metal band. Of course, their album from 1982 titled Welcome to Hell. Let's see, book covers. A series on the occult published by Aldous Books, Ltd., 1976. Origin unknown. So there's the varieties. Let's get into the history. It's a real quick history. Just a quick one little page, probably not even going to read the whole thing. So I am kind of leaving a lot of this up to you as well, dear listeners and viewers. I will always point you in the direction, and anyone is more than welcome to get a hold of me to find out more information behind the scenes or whatever. But if there's anything I don't cover on the show or don't cover as deeply as you would like, let me know. We can revisit it, or I can point you in the right direction to be able to find it. So let's see here. The history and the origins. There have been many rumors and claims regarding this symbol. And here we recount the Church of Satan's discovery and use of this powerful image. Yeah, they didn't create it, but they did popularize it, definitely. See, just making myself a note real quick. It's probably the most recognizable symbol regarding Satanism, and it's kind of used by all versions of Satanists. So it's kind of just universal, kind of like the Christian cross. It's same thing. Prior to the worldwide press given the Church of Satan, and later the publication of the Satanic Bible, the now familiar goat/pentagram/ Leviathan graphic had not been used as the prime symbol of Satan for Satanism. Our younger readers may find this hard to believe, but it is a fact. Examine the literature and imagery predating the founding of the Church of Satan in 1966. Satanism is usually denoted by inverted crosses or crucifixes and blasphemous parodies of Christian art. There are also images of goats and devils and demons, along with their sigils or sigils from grimoires, all used to represent the satanic. However, the complete graphic, which we now call the sigil of Baphomet, only became associated with the foremost symbol of Satanism in the public and media consciousness after the founding of the Church of Satan and Dr. LaVey's use of it. From its inception, the Church of Satan has been constantly spotlighted in print, film, and television media all over the globe. So this was to be expected. The word Baphomet dates back to records of Templar trials, and there are ongoing discussions concerning its derivative and meaning. However, there is no clear evidence that the symbol which we in the Church of Satan call Baphomet is similarly derived. The evidence, if any, has not yet been released in any public forum. Let's see here. So that doesn't really matter. Let's see. So, okay, this actually might help. So this seems to be from, let's see, translated to English, A.E. Waite under the title Transcendental Magic. There are no accompanying illustrations. Here is the English translation. So let's see. Looks like this book was at least translated. I don't know if this was written back then, but it was translated in 1855 through 1856 and 1861. So this is a rather old text. So chapter 5, the blazing pentagram. The pentagram, which in Gnostic schools is called the blazing star, is the sign of intellectual omnipotence and autocracy. It is the star of the Magi. It is the sign of the world made flesh, and according to the direction of its points. This absolute magical symbol represents order or confusion. The divine lamb of Ormuz and St. John, or the accursed goat of Mendez. It is initiation or profanation. It is Lucifer or Vesper, the star of the morning or evening. It is Mary or Lilith, victory or death, day or night. The pentagram with 2 points in the ascendant represents Satan as the goat of the Sabbath. When 1 point is in the ascendant, it is the sign of the Savior. By placing it in such a manner, the 2 of its points are in the ascendant and 1 is below. We may see the horns, ears, and beard of the hierarchic goat of Mendez. When it becomes the sign of infernal evocations. So, this is an incredibly old symbol. Once again, the Church of Satan did not come up with this, obviously. I guess here is a pretty good representation of what that passage was exactly talking about, is that depending on the orientation of which the symbol sits, depends on its use in magic. So as you can see above, this would be a closer to, representing God, the good, whereas in the inverse is the traditional pentagram that we see plastered everywhere regarding Satanists. We have a lot to get through, so I don't think we'll go through all of this, at least right now. I think this is incredibly important, so we will touch back on this. Let's see. So as far as we know, the first printed artwork for an image of a goat face in a 5-pointed star appeared in an engraving on page 387 of the 1897 book. Of course, I do not speak French, so Le Clef de la Main Noire. Yeah, forgive me for my French. I do not speak French at all. By French noblemen and occultists, once again, do not speak French. Not even going to try to pronounce that. That's just an embarrassment for me at that point. The book was part of his multi-volume, which not only put forth some of his own occult ideas underlying his establishment of a group of Rosicrucians. Interesting that they come up. Also, we've already mentioned the Templars, which came up. So, and there's more to that later on as well. So the Rosicrucians, they pop up. And they're definitely going to pop up in this series quite a bit. So be prepared for that. But also served as a platform for his share of accusations of Satanism that he and his enemies, such as LaBasse, author J.K. Heinzman, and friends, were publicly throwing at each other at the time. Okay, so LaVey mentions the demon Lilith in the above passage, and let's see. No, none of this really matters right this second. Anyways. Okay, this is getting a little into the weeds for what we're doing today. So here are some different examples. We'll take a look at those real quick. once again, we will come back to this, or you can go check it out on your own. This is just on the Church of Satan's website. It's the history. So let's see. Let's head back here. Getting off track just a little bit now. As stated before, this church was started by Anton LaVey. So who is Anton LaVey? Let's take a look at him real quick. Has an incredibly interesting life. Very, very interesting man, in my humble opinion. Let's see. Making sure I have everything cleaned up. Okay. So, Anton Zandor LaVey, born Howard Stanton LaVey, April 11th, 1930, died October 29th, 1997, was an American writer, musician, and Satanist. He was the founder of the Church of Satan and the philosophy of LaVeyan Satanism, which is basically what we're covering. When I was a Satanist, this is the ideology that I personally resonated with the most. I never labeled myself a LaVeyan Satanist, but it is the ideology that I guess followed or practiced. More so than some of the other organizations, such as the Satanic Temple, which is honestly more of a political organization than anything. But we'll get to those. So Anton, he authored several books, including the Satanic Bible, the Satanic Witch, the Satanic Rituals, the Devil's Notebook, and Satan Speaks. In addition, he released 3 musical albums, including the Satanic Mass, Satan Takes a Holiday, and Strange Music. He played a minor on-screen role and served as technical advisor for the 1975 film The Devil's Reign, and served as host and narrator for Nick Bougas's 1989 Mondo film Death Scenes, which is one of the more well-known interviews that he gave. Let's see. So, historian of Satanism, Gareth J. Medway, described LaVey as a born showman, with an anthropologist, Jean Lafontaine, describing him as a colorful figure of considerable personal magnetism. And he was. I mean, whether you agree with Satanism or don't, I mean, you got to give him the fact that he was a natural showman. I mean, even to this day, there's, parts of him that I still find relatively, I wouldn't say attractive, but they're, I don't know, you can just watch some of his stuff and it's like, oh, well, he's probably a guy that you would sit and have a beer with. Might punch him in the face, but you might sit down and have a beer with him. Even to this day, I probably still would if he were alive. Talk mad shit, though. So we'll get into some of those interviews that I pulled, just to kind of hear the words from his mouth himself. Let's see, where was I? The Academic Scholars of Satanism. Okay, here we go already. The Academic Scholars of Satanism. Okay. Perfaxneld and Jasper Ergard Peterson described LaVey, quote, or described LaVey as, as the most iconic figure in the satanic milieu, which I completely agree with. The funny thing is like Satanists of all backgrounds and persuasions, they will argue against this. LaVey was never a Satanist. Like he was fake, he was a charlatan, all of these things. But I mean, he did more for this belief and their religion, I use that term lightly, more so than anyone else in at least known history. Let's see here real quick. In fact, I made just this exact post the other day. So what I said is the gatekeeping Satanists can say whatever they want about Anton LaVey, but he has done more for their belief than almost anyone. We'll just watch this real quick.
I'm not a secular humanist because I don't believe really in the redemption of humanity. I believe that humans, and I don't believe it, I simply have witnessed it empirically with my own eyes, that humans, given the chance, are going to, they're going to try to score. And if they think they can get something for nothing, they're going to get it. They're going to go for it. And I don't have any great hopes for the human race, except that it sort of stays in line or allows other people who will keep it in line to sort of hold the reins. But as long as people are happy and they're doing what they're really capable of doing, then, or even what they're not capable of doing, as long as they're happy, they're going to be rather content. And the rulers of the world know this. I'm not a secular humanist because I don't believe really in the redemption of humanity. I believe that humans, and I...
Okay, so that's basically him in a nutshell. Although that was him in his later years, he was getting on. He seemed to get more cynical and more nihilist, I guess, as time goes on. In fact, let's go look at some early Anton real quick, or at least earlier. Actually, let's finish this real quick. So LaVey was labeled many things by journalists, religious detractors, and Satanists alike, including the father of Satanism, the Saint Paul of Satanism, the Black Pope, and the evilest man in the world. I think that's Aleister Crowley, in my personal opinion, which was also given to him as a label when he was alive. But that's a whole other part of this series that we have to get to, obviously. So be on the lookout for that. So let's see. Anton LaVey was born April 11th, 1930 in Chicago, Illinois. I find it interesting that he was born in Chicago. Just kind of a interesting little data point there. Lots of weird, spooky, glowy things go down in Chicago. Pretty much its entire existence as a city. Let's see. His parents supported his musical interest. This nerd totally played the organ. I know a lot of organ players, and none of them are particularly young. I guess, maybe they start young, but yeah, what a fucking nerd. Plays the organ. He was quite good, though. I will give him that. His favorites were keyboards, such as the piano and the accordion. Anton played piano in a Baptist church as a boy and played oboe in high school. Like I said, fucking nerd. Let's see. That doesn't really matter for this. Let's see right here. LaVey claimed he left high school at age 16 to join the Clyde Beatty Circus, or Beatty. Yeah, Clyde Beatty Circus, and later carnivals in general. First as a roustabout. Roustabout is an occupational term. Traditionally, it referred to a worker with broad-based, non-specific skills. So he was like a laborer for, circuses and carnivals. Eventually graduating up to cage boy in an act with the Big Cats. Then as a musician playing the calliope, which, nerdy as it is, that is actually kind of cool. He played tunes such as Harlem Nocturne. Let's see. LaVey later claimed to have seen that many of the same men attended both the Body Saturday night shows and the tent revival meetings on Sunday mornings, which reinforced his increasingly cynical view of religion. In the foreword to the German language edition of the Satanic Bible, he cites this as the impetus to defy Christian religion as he knew it. He explains why churchgoers employ moral double standards. However, journalist Lawrence Wright investigated LaVey's background and found no evidence LaVey ever worked in a circus, either as a musician or a cage boy. I mean, I tend to believe it, and let me tell you why. It's not like these circuses tended to keep great records. However, the opposite side of this is LaVey, was a showman, and he wasn't exactly the most honest person. The belief system itself doesn't exactly promote honesty to all people all the time. But I tend to believe that he probably worked, at least a circus, probably a couple, and only because, he later ended up having a pet lion. And, I guess he could have, paid somebody to teach him how to handle it, but he just seemed way too natural with it. And where would you learn that other than a circus? Especially in the early days. Once again, he was born in the 30s. Let's see. Yeah, 1930. So he was literally, a young man towards the end of the big circuses and the freak shows and everything. So, it just, even though there isn't any proof, I tend to believe it. Also, he was a big fan of Barnum and Bailey, not just like the circus, but he was also a fan of both men, as entrepreneurs and, I guess, a spiritual guide, or I'm not even sure exactly what you would call it, but it just seems like he was in fact involved in circuses somehow to a pretty large extent. You just don't get the training with the lion that way otherwise. So let's see. In the winter of 1948, LaVey began to work as an organist in bars, lounges, and nightclubs. His genius on keyboards helped him attain gigs. He claimed to have had a brief affair with then unknown Marilyn Monroe. We will get into that more later. While playing organ in Los Angeles burlesque houses, stating that she was a dancer at the Mayan Theater at the time. This was challenged by those who knew Monroe then, as well as the manager of the Mayan, Paul Valentine, who said she had never been one of his dancers, nor had the theater ever been used as a burlesque house. Yeah, okay, I could go either way on that. Whether he knew Monroe or not, I don't know. That kind of sounds like a lie to me, but it is Hollywood, though, is the thing. And what's interesting is certain people like LaVey can position themselves in certain circles and run into people that they might not otherwise do if they weren't actually trying to be somebody, and he was. Real quick, let's see. Mike said, I read the Satanic Bible when I was young. The thing I remember getting out of it was basically do what you want, you might as well. Yeah, I mean that is ultimately, in my opinion, what it does come down to. It's do what thou wilt. Um, of course, the Church of Satan put some caveats into that. But I mean that is what it is. It's embracing your beast instincts, your lizard brain mentality. So it's if hedonism, right? That's basically how I refer to it. It is just the ultimate hedonism, not having any delayed gratification, not holding back, certain emotions, embracing anger, and viewing anger as just as healthy as something such as love. And we'll get into the exact beliefs because we'll wrap up on this Wikipedia article real quick. Let's see. According to his biography, LaVey moved back to San Francisco. LaVey met Carol Lansing in 1950, and they married the following year when Lansing was 15 years old. Fucking creep. Let's see. So she was 15. See, met in 1950, so he would have been 20. I mean, I get it that it was back then. I still think it's creepy. I try not to judge back, in history by today's standards. I think it was always creepy. I don't think that this was actually the norm. I mean, 15. That's a baby. That is a baby. I mean, obviously every year that she would get older, it would make it less worse. But I mean, he's 20. He's an adult. From what I understand, his family, like his household wasn't super abusive, but it wasn't like he still did experience abuse by his father, I believe. Could be wrong about that, but it's neither here nor there. He was 20 and married a 15-year-old. That's crazy to me. Disgusting. Let's see. Lansing gave birth to LaVey's first daughter, Carla LaVey, born in 1952. In order to avoid the Korean War draft, he studied criminology at the City College of San Francisco. LaVey then attended a job as a photographer for the San Francisco Police Department, where he worked for 3 years. Wright could find no evidence of LaVey being enrolled at the City College of San Francisco or working at his job either. That's kind of interesting. I mean, back then you could easily go under a different name, or maybe he's just completely full of shit. However, I do know that there were no military records, at least that we know of, regarding Anton LaVey or his birth name. So they might be out there. Who knows? However, take note that everything he says in his background, people have a hard time finding corroborative evidence for. Keep that in mind because that comes up later. Because anyone who does know about this stuff, Anton LaVey very clearly had intelligence connections, which we will also be getting into. So that could also explain a lack of a background that could be verified. He had to make it up. So, however, it is true that he did marry Carol Lansing in 1950, which is creepy. Let's see. LaVey claimed to have dabbled as a psychic investigator, looking into 800 calls referred to him by San Francisco Police Department. Later biographers questioned whether LaVey ever worked with the San Francisco Police Department, as there are no records substantiating the claim. Once again, glowy background, very spooky. During this period, LaVey was friends with a number of writers, associated with Weird Tales magazine. This is interesting. I actually did not know that. So Weird Tales, real quick, why this is interesting. Okay, so Weird Tales is an American fantasy and horror fiction pulp magazine. So think, like Tales from the Crypt, or like Eek Comics, Creep Show from the 80s or whatever. It's all of those pre-1950 or pre-1960s horror, true crime, and sci-fi comics that ended up getting banned later by Congress in late 50s, I believe. Why I find this interesting, that he was friends with some of these people, is because in my opinion, and this will also get covered, that my personal opinion is that the comic book ban of the 1950s is a actual genuine moral panic. This banning of comic books and everything, and that's not to say that that I think kids probably should have been reading them. I don't think that's the case necessarily with some of these. I'm a huge fan of them. I have collections of them, and they're not exactly child friendly. However, not my pigs, not my farm. It's up to each parent to decide that for their own kids. Also, anytime the government steps in, they just ruin everything. So why is banning, certain things in comics, helping the youth of America? It's like, won't somebody please think of the children, pearl clutching nonsense. So I do believe that the horror, creepy, true crime comic book ban was a genuine moral panic. And so I think we'll end up covering that to be able to compare it side by side to the Satanic Panic and look at what, in my opinion, is a real moral panic versus a artificially inflated and created one. So yeah, that's why I find it interesting that he was friends with a number of writers associated with Weird Tales magazine, one of many of these comics. A picture of him with George Haas, Robert Barber Johnson, and Clark Anton Smith appears in Blanche Barton's biography, The Secret Life of a Satanist. I bet that's an interesting book. LaVey and Carol divorced in 1960 after LaVey became involved with Diane Haggerty. Haggerty and LaVey never married, but she was his companion for 24 years and mothered his second daughter, Zena LaVey, or, Zena Shrek now. She will also be getting her own episode as we get into this. At the end of their relationship, Haggerty sued for palimony. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see. The Church of Satan. Anton LaVey became a local celebrity in San Francisco through the paranormal research and live performances as an organist, including playing the Wurlitzer at the Lost Weekend Cocktail Lounge. He was also a publicly noticeable figure. He drove a coroner's van around town, and he walked his pet black leopard named Zoltan. That's pretty cool. Still kind of nerdy, though, because he also wore a cape. He attended many San Francisco notables, or he attracted many San Francisco notables to his parties. Guests included Garin D. Plessen, Michael Harner, Chester A. Arthur III, Forrest J. Ackerman, Fritz Lieber, Cecil E. Nixon, and Kenneth Anger. LaVey formed a group called the Order of the Trapezoid, which will also get its own episode, which later evolved into the governing body of the Church of Satan. According to Faxnailed and Peterson, the Church of Satan represented the first public, highly visible, and long-lasting organization which prepondered a coherent satanic discourse. Basically, this just talks about LaVey began presenting Friday night lectures on occult and rituals. He wouldn't just cover Satanism. He would cover all sorts of, old world religions, different types of magic, Eastern magic, Egyptian magic. He would talk about all sorts of occult related topics. This is actually one of the ways that he would make money, is by doing these lectures. But apparently they did grow in popularity quite a bit. Let's see here. And another video. Oh, it looks like I have to go find it again. I must have exited out of it. Give me just one sec. Damn it. Let's see. Is it here? Okay. So, for anyone who's curious, these videos that I found, excluding this one, but however, this is in a it's in a playlist. Most of these videos that I show tonight are actually from the Church of Satan YouTube channel. They have 32.5K subscribers. It actually has a lot of great source material. And once again, I wanted to make sure that if we were going to talk about this, that it was going to be done from their sources, their words. That way, the finger can't be pointed at me that I'm misrepresenting them or whatever it may be, although I'm sure some still current Satanists would probably argue that. But we'll kind of pop into this video and out because it's kind of a collection of clips, but they're all rather important.
Myself, I have naturally many of the same problems, the trials and tribulations of any regular minister, of any other church. The only thing that really presents a difference is the fact that I cannot perhaps be sanctimonious about things, but I can do anything that I want to. I can pursue any kind of lustful desires that I might feel. I can engage in any activities that are so-called sinful activities and not really worry about any ecumenical councils making it right for me to do these things. It's like saying that you have to only hate to be a...
So I find this interesting. I wanted to pause on this woman right here. Look at the wrinkles and look at her age. So, I mean, I believe this clip is from the early 70s. And the reason I wanted to point this out is because this wasn't just like a bunch of young atheists. Granted, they're Californians, so they're going to be fairly uppity. Also, he lived and practiced his faith in San Francisco, which I think is the worst type of Californian. In my personal opinion, sorry if anyone in the audience is Californian, but you have to at least agree you understand what I mean. But the point of me bringing this up is that this wasn't just, young hipster atheists or whatever that were attracted to this. Anton LaVey was very attractive to people from multiple generations, from all across the political spectrum. He was very attractive to many different people for many different reasons.
Satanist, you cannot love. It's like saying that people that aren't Satanists only love and can't practice hate. Therefore, Satanists must practice hate. But that's like saying that just because somebody drinks coffee, they can never drink tea. And people like to believe that, though, because they always talk very much about a curse that's been conjured successfully. It even makes the newspapers. But any kind of a blessing that will save someone, or pull somebody through a financial bind. Nobody ever talks about that, and it shows that we are right in our judgment as far as human nature and what it represents. Sexual freedom is something we feel is very important as a necessary requisite of the Satanic Church. It isn't the most important thing, but certainly it's an elective. We feel a person should be free to indulge in all of the so-called fetishes, all of the so-called aberrations that they would so desire, as long as they don't hurt anyone that doesn't deserve or wish to be hurt. I think it should be...
Okay, we'll stop there for just a sec. I want to replay that again, just because I was talking about, Satanism is a do what thou wilt belief, but they put in these little caveats, just, to kind of separate themselves as a official religious organization from anyone who might be a Satanist that might commit a crime. And they put these little caveats in the ways or in the teachings just so that they can keep that separation between themselves. So let me just replay that again real quick.
So-called aberrations that they would so desire, as long as they don't hurt anyone that doesn't...
As long as they don't hurt anyone that
deserve or wish to be...
that doesn't deserve or wish
hurt.
to be hurt. So, say if you're into a rather, like a sadomasochistic type sexual relationship with somebody, that would be, considered giving consent to be hurt. But he also says anyone who doesn't deserve. That's a pretty open-ended statement, in my opinion. That little distinction right there is something I wanted to point out, because that's what I believe makes this ideology dangerous. It's not even the ideology itself, but it's the ability to have that so open-ended that allows for people that do want to cause harm or will cause harm either to themselves or others, the justification to be able to do so under their religion. So, and of course, this isn't like exclusive to this belief system. And people can use their any belief for any justification. And so I'm not specifically just pointing the finger at Satanism. This isn't like, oh, look at them, this can't happen elsewhere. It does, and it can, and it will in the future. But specifically with this belief system, I'm going to point out these caveats that they keep making, because this is where I think they actually slip up themselves. Let's see here. So let's get to actually what do these people believe? So we will end up going through the Satanic Bible, probably chunk by chunk. There are going to be some pre-filmed episodes where I go through and read and we talk, and those will be available at a later date. But in the meantime, we will start with the 9 satanic statements. This was written by Anton, LaVey. The 9 satanic statements originally appeared in the Satanic Bible in 1969. Let's see here. Stupid mouse. Go check comments real quick. Yes. Yeah, EC Comics had some of the best pre-code. Yes, and if you can get your hands on any of the originals or even any of the copies, the reprints, which is largely what I have. I would love to get some original ECs, but the price. But the EC Comics are phenomenal if you like that sort of thing. Highly recommended. Let's see. I wrote a term paper on LaVey in the 80s. He has really done work on this. Very impressive. Thank you. Let's see. That doesn't deserve or wish to be hurt, allows for all kinds of rationalizing. That's correct. That's very correct. A Christ person myself. Same here, Stephanie. And I myself am also a Christian now. I was not always. I actually was a Satanist, practicing Satanist, and I loved every second of it at the time. It was about a 10-year period where I was a devout Satanist. I myself today am a Christian. I am trying to keep my own personal opinions regarding, my faith in Christ, trying to keep those separate until the time is appropriate to do so and address it in its own episode. Partially also why I'm doing this, because I feel it's a way to be able to atone for being or repent. I mean, for being led astray for so long. I think this is the best thing that I can possibly do. But what exactly are the beliefs? So the 9 satanic statements. Number 1, Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. So hedonism, it's just, if it feels good, do it. That's really what it is. It's that simple. Number 2, Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. So Satanists typically believe that, well, I don't know. See, here's where it gets complicated, because people within the Church of Satan can, on one hand, some will say God doesn't exist at all. Others will say that he does, but that Satan himself is also a god. So they're polytheist. And then there's others within the same organization that believe that Satan as a god is the actual true God, and that the Christian God is actually or an oppressor, somebody who has humans in bondage. The very typical story that you would hear about theology is that the snake in the Garden of Eden, representing Satan or Baphomet, the devil, actually got Eve to eat the apple, and that act of rebellion was actually a good thing, because that's what gave humans the ability of free will. And so Satan in some circles is seen as like this great emancipator of the human race. And allegedly, through their worldview, that by doing this is what got Satan cast out of heaven and, sent to hell or Hades, whatever. So yeah, it's a complete inversion from almost any typical Christian religion, even, Islam. It's completely inverted. So, yeah, Satan good, God bad. And then also there's also the overall belief that there is no God. So it's like an atheistic thing, that we as people, we as individuals are also our own God, or that we can become our own God. And this is done when you reject kneeling down to the Lord and embrace yourself as the true God that we can all be. So basically, God is like represented as a very selfish and controlling person. and Satan is doing what he can to set humanity free. At least that's what's preached, and even myself, that's what I believed at one point. Let's see, number 3. Oh, and just for anyone curious, these 9 satanic statements, they're kind of like, the 10 Commandments. So if you hadn't picked up on that. Okay, so number 3, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Once again, that inversion of saying God's teachings are only blinding us and making us slaves. And so Satan is the great emancipator to not only our spirits, but to our minds themselves. Let's see. Number 4, Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. So this is really getting into, the basics of what you believe. I mean, you don't, love your neighbor as yourself. No, you reject that. You do not love or even give kindness to those people who are undeserving. You don't necessarily go out of your way to, say, bring hostility into a random person's life. However, if you do have a bad interaction with somebody out in public, you feel slighted or disrespected, then you are not obligated by any means to show that person kindness or turn the other cheek, or to, care for them, love them, wish that they do better. You are fully encouraged to absolutely show hate and hostility towards that person because they have earned it by slighting you, disrespecting you. Number 5, Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Right there. I think that pretty much explains itself, right? It's there's no forgive and let go and move on. It is all, hold on to that. This person did you wrong, did your family wrong. And so vengeance is entirely appropriate. And in fact, encouraged to the point that you should you should pursue vengeance if you feel as though it is necessary. Number 6, Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. And I find this one hilarious because, everyone, even Satanists, are psychic vampires, in my opinion. I think this is just like a individual thing. This isn't based upon any ideology or whatever. And also the imagery of vampires and werewolves and whatever, I find it hilarious. Anyways, Satan represents responsibility to the responsible. So really, at least the way I understood this was always, if you, okay, here's a good example. For instance, most of the time as a Satanist, you would look at a homeless person as somebody who is irresponsible. And the reason why that they are irresponsible is because they were unable to keep their life together. It doesn't matter why they're homeless. It doesn't matter what their circumstance is. You wouldn't even give them the time of day to be able to explain their circumstance. The fact of the matter is they're homeless, and that's irresponsible. You're not homeless, so you are responsible. So Satan represents responsibility to the responsible. So as you are more responsible, you are going to be bestowed more responsibility and basically more abilities to prove yourself. And also psychic vampires, I think, is a genuine concern for anybody, honestly. Those people that just drain the shit out of you, like you're just around them and they just drain you. All they do is just take, and they take and take and take. So I still kind of agree with that. It's, watch who you spend time with, watch who you are around, because psychic vampires are real, 100%. Number 7, Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine, spiritual, and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. So, this is a really dehumanizing aspect on humanity. So basically, man is just another animal. And we are, but there is so much that sets us different, or sets us apart, I mean, from, a deer, a dog, a cat, even. You know, we are a whole different animal. Animal, yes, but it's a lot more complicated than that. This is oversimplifying us. But this also kind of takes away our autonomy, in my opinion, because we're not just another animal. So I think that language right there is incredibly important. The man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse. And I think ideology such as this is actually, it is adding to the problem of dehumanization, in my opinion, but it's also allowing for dehumanization to happen, which also then allows us to become, as they say, just another animal. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But also they do hold animals, those that walk on all fours, or 6 or 8, whatever, that they do view them as innocent, which I do as well. I think animals are innocent. They don't have the conscious awareness like we do. And so I think we as humans, we do have a responsibility to take care of those that cannot for themselves. And I mean, actually take care of, not things like PETA. Okay. This is not a PETA supporting channel. We'll get to them as well at some point. But I'm talking like conservation, being able to ethically hunt a deer herd to be able to keep the population down so there's enough for all of them to eat and disease doesn't spread, these sorts of things. I think we as stewards of the earth actually do have a responsibility to take care of the earth. What a crazy position. But specifically where I differ from an idea like this is that these people will put animals on like a pedestal, like they are so much greater than, and they are greater than because of the lack of conscience. And so I just find it interesting. It is, once again, dehumanizing. That is part of this as well. Number 8, Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, and emotional gratification. Yeah, so once again, hedonism, if it feels good, do it. Satan represents all of the so-called sins. Yeah, so I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Let's see, let's pull up at least the 7 deadly sins real quick, at least a list of them. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. This is exactly what I was looking for. So, all right, just quickly, the 7 deadly sins: vanity or pride. In my opinion, the absolute worst of the 7 deadly. Then we have sloth and gluttony, lust, averse, I don't know. envy, jealousy, wrath / anger. These are all just base animal desires, things that we are supposed to overcome or control / maintain. Whereas over here, with Satanism, you're just supposed to embrace all of them because they are natural to us. And so there is no reason to run from them. We should embrace them. And by embracing them, you can control them. And because you're not supposed to allow your emotions to control you, but you are supposed to engage with them and to also, what's the word I'm looking for is, I hear the phrase swim in them quite often. If that gives you kind of an idea. Let's see here. And number 9, Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all of these years. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with this in theory. There are many horrible things that have come out of almost every single church that has ever existed, Christian or otherwise. I'll specifically talk just about Christianity. Islam is a whole other, that's a whole other thing. But just out of the Christian faith, there has been a lot of atrocity committed in the name of the church, in the name of Jesus. I mean, wars and all sorts of terrible things that should have never happened. What I will say to this, though, is if Satan is a deity that exists, that perpetuates the idea that God is the oppressor, then your number one target is going to be the church. It's going to be the place of worship in which people gather to be able to worship an oppressor, in their opinion. So the fact that bad things come from the church is actually no surprise to me, as churches are, it is impossible for any church at all to be able to be not infiltrated, right? You are going to have bad people join any good organization and be able to commit bad things in the name of that organization. I do not believe that that is a reflection of the teachings themselves. I do not believe that that is I do not believe that that overshadows the good that actually does come from Christianity. But the way that they speak about this, number 9, as if the church itself could not exist without Satan. Well, that's not exactly true, because, I mean, well, there are some churches almost exclusively focused on Satan or evil or whatever it may be. But the church isn't entirely focused on Satan or whatever the, whatever the name is of whatever denomination you're a member of. For sake of conversation, we'll just address it as evil or Satan. But they do both kind of need each other as a concept. However, that's kind of a natural order of things, right? Good and bad, black, white, up and down, left, right. There's opposites. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So it's not to say that Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had. It's like, well, it's kind of like a duh statement. But this is just kind of self-grandizing, in my opinion. The best friend the church ever had. Yeah, okay. As he kept it in business all these years. It's like, well, yeah. I mean, the purpose of Christianity is to actually teach us wisdom and pass down these teachings that actually make us better people, instead of embracing these seven deadly sins, or living a life of sin, of actual sin, not just your drunk uncle on Thanksgiving thinking he understands a particular passage of the Bible better than you do, or whatever. These people where people don't have an understanding of the actual teachings, and they want to impose their own beliefs, but veil it under whatever faith you have. But once again, that's not a faith problem. That's a personal problem with that person. An asshole is an asshole regardless of what they believe, and they would be an asshole regardless of whatever they believe. So, it's an asshole problem. But yeah, number 9, even when I was a practicing Satanist, that statement always bothered me. Okay, moving on. Okay, now here is what's closer to the actual 10 commandments. This is actual rules in which to live your life as a Satanist. So these are the 11 satanic rules of the earth. We'll cruise through these ones quicker. Let's see here. So these were by Anton, LaVey, copyright 1967. Number 1, do not give opinions or advice unless you are asked. Okay, I mean, that sounds like pretty good advice, just kind of in general. I do, in my personal opinion, do find it kind of offensive if somebody just gives you an opinion, or specifically advice. If somebody gives you advice, if you did not ask for it, I do view that as rude. Mainly to strangers, though. Your family, that's up for each individual to decide. But I think in public, it is rude to just offer advice out of nowhere unless you were asked. Before we move on, because number 1, do not give opinions or advice unless you are asked. This just sounds kind of like a general piece of advice itself, right? When this actually is kind of, advice itself. So, to get out of that mindfuck for a sec, this is also what I think makes this belief system dangerous, because how many people could you find that would actually disagree with that? Obviously, there's some, but it's like, okay, yeah, I can get behind that. Almost everyone reasonable would agree with some of these. And that's also what makes it so easy for people to be able to slip into this role as a Satanist, because so much of it is reasonable. It's kind of like generic and covers a lot. So, all right, number 2, do not tell your troubles to others unless you are sure they want to hear them. And we kind of do this as, naturally as humans. It's, say if your life is pretty rough right now, somebody asks, how are you doing? You're not about to just like trauma dump on them and just be like, oh man, my life is just so terrible, blah, blah, blah. What do we always say in small talk? Doing just great. Thanks for asking. So, I mean, we do kind of do this naturally, or socially, I guess. But this is like taking it to an extreme. Like, you literally do not ever talk about your troubles unless asked, or you yourself determine that that person does truly want to hear. Also, it is a matter of not giving information to people about yourself or about your life. Giving that information to somebody that could possibly use it against you, or somebody who's just not in your inner circle, your family, your very close friends. So it's more than just thinking of others. It's also doing it to keep yourself and your loved ones safe from their standpoint. Okay, number 3. When in another's lair or home, show him respect, or else do not go there. Yeah, so when you're in somebody else's home, show respect. Yeah, no shit. That's a pretty basic rule, right? So, a lot of people will look at that and be like, okay, yeah, I agree. Other than the lair part, like, don't call your home a lair. That's stupid. Fucking nerds. Once again, I think this is kind of what makes it dangerous, though, right? Is it's so reasonable for that. Number 4, if a guest is in your lair, or if a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. So, this is up for each individual to be able to determine exactly, what an annoyance is, what constitutes cruel or cruelty, and what constitutes without mercy. I think this is unreasonable, right? Like somebody comes into your house, first time there, you're having a work party, say, and you got alcoholic drinks for everyone. Well, one of your coworkers shows up plastered already, disrespecting your house, spills some red wine on your new white carpet, and then you just berate him in front of everyone, tear him down, and then kick him out of your house. Like, that's unreasonable in polite society. However, as a Satanist, you are encouraged to do so. But once again, this is if you feel it necessary, because even if somebody does disrespect you in your lair, it is still up to you to decide whether it's worth the effort, and social backlash and all of these other things to treat somebody cruelly and without mercy. Also, there's levels to this, right? Like, it's scalable. You could go from yelling to them, but you could also just be super passive aggressive, but you could also hold on to it and wait and enact vengeance later on. Say at work, while they're not there, you go and glue some thumbtacks to their seat or something. That would not be out of the realm of what's acceptable as a Satanist. Of course, I'm being trying to think of an example, but and I'm being silly with the example. But that's kind of the point, is like, you could do something like that. And as a Satanist, it would not be against your beliefs. I don't think anyone would do that, but, well, I don't know. I put thumbtacks on, some schoolmates' chairs before. So, but that was a prank. And they got me back for that. But point still stands. Okay, number 5. Do not make sexual advances unless you are given the mating signal. Okay. I think this is like kind of a universal thing. Like, don't try and sleep with somebody who doesn't want to be slept with. Yeah, I think we can all agree with that one. Now, I am going to pause on this one, though, because number 5, this is one of their, in my opinion, one of the ways that the actual organization, the Church of Satan, 501c3 or whatever they're listed as, this is not necessarily because I think they believe this. Some do, right? I still believe this. Don't make sexual advancements towards somebody that doesn't want it. I think we can all agree. However, I don't believe that this is like a genuine, deep-held belief. I believe this is actually more of a way to, once again, separate themselves from somebody who is a Satanist, even a member an active and registered member of the Church of Satan that would, or that might commit an act such as this because it's, engaging in their baser lust instincts, which is also kind of more important for you to engage in your hedonism than it is to really care about what it does to others. Not everyone's going to be like that. I was never like that. One of the greatest pleasures I always had in my life was making my family happy, and making sure to protect them, provide what I could for them. But that's not everyone's happy place. And so a belief system like this allows you to embrace your happy place. And unfortunately, some people have some really bad happy places. Number 6, do not take that which does not belong to you. Okay. I think we all agree with that, right? No stealing. Great. Unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be relieved. Oh, please relieve me of this Rolls Royce. Please relieve me of this $100 that I left on my counter. And I turn my back. Please relieve me of this burden. That's like, okay, yeah, that's all great and all. The concept of it's like, oh, somebody, okay, I can't even think of a good example of this one, but because the thing is if somebody was truly burdened, you could just ask them like, hey, can I take that off your hands so, you're not bothered by this anymore. You don't have to steal it. And then once, they give you permission to take it, it's therefore no longer stealing. You're just taking because you have permission. You have the consent to take it. So yeah, I think this is word salad to confuse things and to also justify being able to steal. I mean, what else could it be? I am going to try and be as charitable as possible, not because I want these people to be seen as good or their ideas to be seen as good, but I want to be able to steel man their positions, to be able to look at it from their positions, to be able to present it from their positions, and still show how it is absurd, even from their position. But this is also, on the flip side, pointing out the problems in which they hide behind. This is one of those word salad things right here. Unless it is a burden to the other person and he cries out to be relieved. Number 7, acknowledge the power of magic if you have employed it successfully to obtain your desires. If you deny the power of magic after having called upon it with success, you will lose all you have obtained. Now, I initially did not believe in any sort of magic or any sort of practicing or rituals or anything. It's described in the Satanic Bible as literal psychodrama. That is what it is referred to as, meaning that the ritual itself is for the spectacle, right? Now, I think that this is said for 2 reasons. One, it is said to be psychodrama so that people feel more comfortable participating in it because there's no pressure of, oh, well, this might, enforce some energy into the world, or like there's no pressure to engage in it because it's just psychodrama. You're just putting on a play to freak, evangelical mom and dad out. You are participating in a public black mass to be able to freak out the Christians and make the news. Like there's no pressure in performing a ritual if it's if it's just make believe and they fully admit it, right? The other side to this is that they do believe it, that it is psychodrama, but it is also a way to actually practice magic because, like it or not, magic is real. It is not what you think it is. It's not, here, pick a card. It's not, making people disappear. It's not these things. It's really starts with putting your mind on track in a very particular way to be able to bring things into existence. It's self-manifestation. It's putting energy into something that might not exist so that you can change your reality. I mean, people do this all the time, that it's not just Satanists that believe this, but the self-manifestation. There was that book, The Secret, that trash. It's self-manifestation. I'm going to think I want a Ferrari until I get one. It's like, that's not exactly what's happening, but it's the same thing. It's putting the energy into it and putting the intent into it. So granted, you might start out as just wanting to upset Christians or wanting to do, the other side of it, the performative side of things. But what you don't actually understand is that you are then, in and of itself, even just pretending, are actually giving energy to things that are far beyond our ability to control, because we are mortal humans, and you are trying to entertain ideas and entities and other such energies out there that we have no control over. This is why things like the Ouija board are dangerous. Now, I personally don't believe in the Ouija board as a window between living and dead, or between dimensions or anything. But I also at the same time don't not believe it, if that makes sense. I think it can be used as a conduit. I do believe that anything that actually is communicated with through any sort of spirit board, doesn't matter if it comes from who the hell is the toy maker? Mattel, I think, is who makes it, or any like homemade one. It doesn't matter. I think the only contact that can actually be made with it is evil energy. But our society's acceptance of a spirit board is actually, I think, a dribble over from basically like the spiritual movement of like the early 1900s, right? They were used a lot in, contacting your dead relative to be able to say goodbye or ask where that hidden money was or whatever. And it kind of just never went away. I do believe that they can be used for bad. Most of the time it's inert. It's not going to happen. But putting the intention into it and the energy into it is going to make it far more likely that you actually do contact something. Okay, let's see. We'll cover more magic as the time goes on, but let's see. Number 8, do not complain about anything to which you need not subject yourself to. So if you're, doing something that you hate, or if you're doing anything at all, and it's your choice to do it, don't complain. Don't complain about it, because you are the reason for putting yourself there. And so therefore you have lost your right to complain about it. And that honestly kind of goes for everything. And this one I still kind of agree with. I mean, outside of some circumstances, pretty much if you keep punching yourself in the face, I don't think you have the ability to complain about being punched in the face. So I do actually still kind of agree with this one, although I don't know if I would live it as like a commandment. Um, although, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out exactly how this could be applied uh, to embrace some pretty nasty decisions. Number 9, do not harm little children. Once again, with that language thing, I think we all agree here. At least we better all agree. Do not harm little children. Okay, once again, that's kind of why I'm doing a Satanic Panic series, because I do believe that there have been many children harmed by people who would probably self-identify as Satanist. Really, none of the people I'm genuinely concerned about in this world are people who would most likely be a member of the Church of Satan. The genuine Satanists I'm worried about are the people that blend in, the people that wear suits and ties, or, you know, your average pizza shop owner in Washington, D.C. Your average mailman, your religious leader, or whatever that has a secret life behind closed doors. These are the ones I'm genuinely worried about, not a edgy atheist trying to piss off mom and dad. However, this once again is one of these things where they make a generalized statement that almost everyone universally agrees with. In the Western world, anyways. Or at least they pretend to agree with it, right? But this is just one of those things. It's like, okay, what do you mean by harm? Who determines what harm is? Why only little children? Why can't it just be children in general? I genuinely believe that number 9 is specifically something to hide behind as an organization to say, see, look, we preach don't hurt children. So if that Satanist over there hurt a child, then they're not us. See how that works? I think that number 9 is just genuine coverage. That's it. Not that I do think that these people are like, oh yeah, I want to hurt children. I don't believe that. Not at all. But as we all know, regardless of what you believe, there are people out there that do have that intent to harm children. It's not exclusive to Satanists by any means. Every religion has it. Every religion is terrible about it. But I do just find this interesting. A lot of churches preach don't harm children, and yet there are still people in their congregation that do it. So, but once again, this is number 9 is adding to the Satanic Panic cover up. Whereas in they say, well, our faith says don't harm children. So, you know, why would any of our belief system be responsible for these children being harmed? Right? Like this is part of the cover up, 100%. Number 10, do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. Let's see. Let's highlight that real quick. Do not kill non-human animals unless you are attacked or for your food. Once again, I agree with this. Yeah, don't, you know, if a cat's running across the road, don't run it over because you just want to. Yeah, I think we can, you know, all well-adjusted adults agree, don't kill animals unless, one, your life or your family's life is in danger, if, say, a bear attack or something, or you're doing it ethically for your food. You know, sport hunting, I've never been a fan of sport hunting. I think it is actually rather cruel. However, hunting for your food, as long as it's done ethically, and there is a way to do it ethically, as long as it's ethical, I see no problem with it at all. So this is just, once again, one of these generalized statements that almost everyone agrees with. And so it's like, they can use this to be able to say, see, you are a Satanist, or see, you do agree with us. Once again, this word salad or this misdirection, obfuscation about what they actually believe. Also, once again, putting humans below animals and putting these animals up on a pedestal. Almost like they worship them, but not quite. Okay, finally, number 11. When walking in open territory, bother no one. Okay, that's a good statement. Walk quietly and carry a big stick. Yeah, sure. If somebody bothers you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. Okay, nerd. Yeah, I mean, I do wholeheartedly, always have and always will agree with the right to self-preservation, and the preservation of, loved ones or even a stranger. So once again, this is just a generalized statement that can be twisted and formed into whatever they need it to be at the time. I know there are several people out there of certain political persuasions that don't believe in the actual right to self-defense or self-preservation. Any, once again, well-adjusted person, regardless of belief, does agree that I should be able to protect myself. I, as in the royal I, or we should all be able to, under threat of death, violence, or theft, property damage, should be able to protect what is ours. Yeah, no pushback there. Now, if somebody bothers you, ask him to stop. That's not always possible in self-defense scenarios. Although some states have made that specifically legal, like you have to. Or like, I think New Jersey is a duty to retreat state. So if somebody breaks into your home, you actually have to leave your home, not the other person, and you don't have the ability to defend yourself, your loved ones, or your property with less than lethal or with deadly force. So you actually have a duty to retreat, and I believe it's state law in New Jersey. So that's incredibly scary to me. But if somebody is bothering you, ask him to stop. If he does not stop, destroy him. What comes to mind is somebody just coming up and just bothering you for no reason, pestering you or whatever, and you just fucking just lay into him and just break his legs, like I have a lot of people out in the world that genuinely annoy me. The number one that comes to mind is people when you're driving, you're about to make a turn and you're at a green arrow. More often than not, most people do not understand how a green arrow works when you're making a turn. And those people annoy me. In fact, it's worse than an annoyance. I downright loathe these people. If you are at a green arrow and you do not go when it is green, you are contributing to the downfall of this country. And I wholeheartedly believe that. However, I am not going to walk up to that person and destroy them. That seems absurd to me. If I ever have a chance, I might say something, but that's not destroying them, Okay. We're going to get wrapping up soon. I've got another show to be on here soon. But this also needs to be covered along with this. And then there's a couple of quick things to close out on. The 9 Satanic Sins by Anton LaVey, 1987. Number 1, stupidity. The top of the list for satanic sins, the cardinal sin of Satanism. It's too bad that stupidity isn't painful. Ignorance is one thing, but our society thrives increasingly on stupidity. It depends on people going along with whatever they are told. The media promotes a cultivated stupidity as a posture. that is not only acceptable but laudable. Satanists must learn to see through the tricks and cannot afford to be stupid. I loathe stupidity in people, but I don't view it as a sin. I do agree that the media promotes a cultivated stupidity, but so do the schools. And so I largely believe that we as a human species are being dumbed down on purpose. I believe we are brainwashed and propagandized and mind controlled. And we are being desensitized by certain things in our culture through movies and music and video games and every bit of art form nowadays. And it's all to encourage us to be stupid. I don't like stupidity. I don't view it as a sin. But this, number one, stupidity as a satanic sin is one reason why you will see, if you ever meet a genuine Satanist, they are going to be egotistical. That's just how it is. They view most people, even if they like them, they are going to view most people as stupid. And, the Satanist thinking this is not the stupid one, because you have a duty as a Satanist to not be stupid. First person that comes to mind is little Mikey Aquino. He's just such a smug bastard. But this is how a lot of them act. That's just kind of how it is. Now, this one always cracks me up. The number 2 satanic sin is pretentiousness. Oh my God, the pretentiousness on any Satanist. It doesn't matter, LaVeyan, theistic, atheistic. It doesn't matter. All of them are so pretentious. They smell their own farts. They do. Pretentiousness. Empty posturing can be most irritating and isn't applying the cardinal rules of lesser magic. On equal footing with stupidity for what keeps the money in circulation these days. Everyone's made to feel like a big shot, whether they can come up with the goods or not. I do agree, though, like in genuine, people shouldn't be pretentious. It's a bad look, And also, every time I see someone who is pretentious, like the first thing that comes to mind is, who the fuck do you think you are? Like I don't care where you come from or whatever, but you're not better than anyone else. So I still have an issue with that. But once again, this is the kind of stuff that sucked me in to believing this, because I held this belief about pretentiousness before I was a Satanist. And I still hold it now, that I'm not a Satanist. Pretentiousness is ugly in my opinion. But I also don't, go out of my way to make a big deal about it. Let's see. Solipsism, number 3. Solipsism can be very dangerous for Satanists. Projecting your reactions, responses, and sensibilities onto someone who is probably far less attuned than you are. It is the mistake of expecting people to give you the same consideration, courtesy, and respect that you naturally give them. They won't. Instead, Satanists must strive to apply the dictum of do unto others as they do unto you. It's work for most of us and requires constant vigilance, lest you slip into a comfortable illusion of everyone being like you. As has been said, certain utopias would be ideal in a nation of philosophers, but unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, from a Machiavellian standpoint, we are far from that point. And you know what? I kind of agree with this one too. I do genuinely believe most people are good, or at least a lot of people. But also, I do find it kind of like a lie that we tell children is like, if you just treat other people well, then they'll treat you well back. That's not always the case. I've treated plenty of people well. and they pretended to treat me well to my face, and it turns out they stabbed me in the back. You know, once again, this is another thing that kind of roped me into it. Was this idea of, I guess, fairness and kind of like addressing human nature. You know, a lot of this, it's like not everyone's going to treat you nice. But once again, these are such generalized statements. I'm not exactly sure how they are considered satanic, if that makes sense. You know, it's like, once again, any reasonable, well-adjusted adult, or even just adjusted, I'm not well-adjusted most of the time, but any reasonable person is going to say, yeah, obviously, if you treat somebody well, that's not a guarantee they'll treat you well back. So I don't understand how these are, you know, genuinely satanic. But once again, that's the danger. Number 4, self-deceit. It is in the 9 satanic statements, but deserves to be repeated here. Another cardinal sin. We must not pay homage to any of the sacred cows presented to us, including the roles we are expected to play ourselves. The only time self-deceit should be entertained or interred into is when it's fun and with awareness, but then it's not self-deceit. Once again, this is kind of like a general statement. This isn't particularly satanic. It's just, yeah, you shouldn't lie to yourself. You should be aware of what you're doing. You should have full knowledge of, you know, of a situation or a decision. You should have full awareness of every option before you make a decision. However, because of the world we live in, with the sheer amount of brainwashing and propaganda and psychological operations being thrust upon us daily, it's kind of hard to not lie to yourself. You know, even us as people who are more aware than the general public, I mean, it's still difficult. Number 5, herd conformity. That's obvious from a satanic stance. It's all right to conform to a person's wishes if it ultimately benefits you. Once again, there's that there's that nihilism and hedonism. But only fools follow along with the herd, letting an impersonal entity dictate to you. The key is to choose a master wisely instead of being enslaved by the whims of the many. Once again, the sentiment of this, I still agree with. You should be well informed enough to be able to make a decision yourself. But what's funny about this is Satanists do not enjoy individuality. They will actually force you to conform to what it is, you know, like if you're joining a sect, you have to conform. Otherwise, you're not going to be a part of them. You have to conform to these ideas. So granted, it's not like mass conformity, like, you know, you saw at the No Kings protest recently, that fabricated nonsense, but it is still herd conformity. It's like nowadays I see a lot of like younger punk kids or punk rock kids being like, oh, you can't be conservative and punk rock. It's like, so I have to conform to what you say is punk rock, otherwise I'm not punk. Like, the whole thing is ass backwards, but it's the demanding of conformity. And Satanists are really bad at it, and they do demand conformity from their followers eventually, which is why I never did very well, because I never joined a cult, or you know, I was never a part of any sort of group like that. Not because I wasn't approached, not because I didn't try. It's because I can't get behind the conformity aspect of it. I am way too individualistic to, you know, embrace that. Let's see. I'm running out of time here, so I got to hurry up. Okay. Number 6, lack of perspective. Again, this one can lead to a lot of pain for a Satanist. You must never lose sight of who and what you are and what a threat you can be. That's an interesting caveat. By your very existence, we are making history right now, every day. Always keep the wider historical and social picture in mind. That is an important key to both lesser and greater magic. See the patterns that fit things together as you want the pieces to fall into place. Do not be swayed by herd constraints. Know that you are working on another level entirely from the rest of the world. Okay, so the best way to break this down is the means justifies the ends, or the ends justify the means. It's just the greater good nonsense, like, and this is also where the pretentiousness comes in, where it's like, I'm working for something so much bigger than myself and the betterment of humanity. Kind of the same thing like politicians do. They sit around, smell their own farts, and think they're saving the world, when in reality they're probably just trafficking children. But that's basically what it is lack of perspective. Okay, number 7, forgetfulness of past orthodoxies. Be aware that this is one of the keys to brainwashing people into accepting something new and different, when in reality, it's something that was once widely accepted, but is now presented in a new package. We are expected to rave about the genius of the creator and forget the original. This makes for a disposable society. Yeah, I mean, once again, I just think this is one of those generalized statements, and they've just kind of thrown in some clever wordplay to be able to, make it their own. But this just, be aware that this is one of the keys to brainwashing people into accepting something new and different. Right. I mean, this is a very well-known tactic, which is happening all over the place. One thing I will say on this is a country where the possibility of a genuine revolution happening in this day and age is most likely going to feed you a fake revolution. So I think a lot of social movements that we see now, of people, starting new political parties. Like I saw one, it's the Restorative Party, or there's these other movements, the No Kings protests I mentioned earlier. All of these things, they're all performative. They're all fakes. They're not actual grassroots movements. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that. Once again, this is just kind of a general statement. I don't believe it to be particularly satanic. Number 8, counterproductive pride. Now, my opinion is that pride itself is counterproductive, any pride, but there is deserved pride and undeserved pride. It's entirely okay, and it's entirely biblical to have pride, within reason, for something you have accomplished. To have pride in something just because is not okay. That's a mental disorder, in my opinion. To be proud of something that you were born as, or something you have no power over, that's absurd to me. Like me sitting here saying I'm proud to be a guy. Like I'm in reality, I'm kind of just neutral on it. It's whatever. I don't have any control over whether I was born a guy or a girl. So to have pride in that just seems absurd. I have a lot of pride in doing shows like this. This is something I have accomplished. I've put a lot of work into this, and hopefully so far, everyone that's watching whether you're watching it live or watching the replay. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. I have pride in this. I'm accomplishing something. I also do keep that in check. However, that's something I've done, not something I am. So counterproductive pride. That first word is important. Pride is great up to the point you begin to throw out the baby with the bathwater. The rule of Satanism is, if it works for you, great. When it stops working for you, when you've painted yourself into a corner and the only way out is to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I wish we could compromise somehow, then do it. There you go. Number 9, lack of aesthetics. This is the physical application of the balance factor. Aesthetics is important in lesser magic and should be cultivated. It is obvious that no one can collect any money off classical standards of beauty and form most of the time, so they are discouraged in a consumer society. But an eye for beauty, for balance, is an essential satanic tool and must be applied for greatest magical effectiveness. It's not what's supposed to be pleasing, it's what is. Aesthetics is a personal thing, reflective of one's own nature. But there are universally pleasing and harmonious, right? Anyways, starting to get tongue-tied and tired. Configurations that should not be denied. So I do find this interesting, is like, the modern feminist theory is that, we should not judge others by the way that we look because of established beauty standards set forth by, well, if it's a feminist, it's usually by the patriarchy or whatever. But, there's a lot of like this type of talk. However, Satanists do acknowledge that there is good looking and bad looking. So there's that. Also, I do find this interesting, the lack of aesthetics. So some people will take this as I should go shop at Hot Topic. Like, I need to go get a black trench coat and wear thick eye makeup and wear, dye my hair like this and look like a goth. Some people take it that way. Some people proudly display their Satanism in tattoos, in their clothing, their appearance. But once again, the ones that separate, or the ones that rise to the top, as Macho Man Randy Savage always says, the cream rises to the top. The Satanists that actually move amongst the ranks, the ones that make an impact, the ones that leave organizations such as the Church of Satan and goes to maybe starting their own sect, or going to, the Temple of Set, or like the Satanic Temple. These other organizations are the ones that take number 9, the lack of aesthetics, is a way to blend in. As once again, these are the Satanists that genuinely scare me, are the ones that blend in because you don't know that they're Satanist. They don't appear on the outside to be Satanist. And these, in my opinion, are the scary ones. So on that note, we're going to start wrapping up. So I would like to just thank once again everyone for showing up. Before we get out of here, I would like to say we are going to finish up Anton LaVey, the Church of Satan, next week. So it will be next Wednesday. It will be a little bit later, probably about 30 minutes. So it'll be 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time, or 7:30 Eastern. And that will be next Wednesday, right here on Rise to Liberty. We stream on YouTube, Rumble, X, and then the replays will be on pretty much every platform you can think of. Now, the reason why you should tune in to the next episode is we will get into more specifics. We'll get into things, LaVey and Satanism, something I really wanted to get into today, but I didn't think we would have the time. Let's see here. I mentioned earlier that Anton LaVey has intelligence ties, and this is something we will be discussing. So, yeah, tune in next week. We will be talking about this. We'll be talking about his connection to Jane Mansfield. Some of these other people that have shown up in his life or allegedly shown up in his life, these sorts of things. So there's going to be a lot more to get to. Let's see here. I'm just making sure there isn't anything I have to cover. Okay, I think we're good. So on that note, I am going to end the show with this clip because I think it's hilarious and I think it kind of wraps up Anton as far as like what we've discussed so far. He's a fucking clown is what I'm trying to say. No, we will get more into him as a person and some of these other interviews and stuff I have pulled up. So once again, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Rise to Liberty. Once again, next week, same time, same place, same bat channel. And then make sure and check out, let's see here real quick. We have, if you want to support what I do, you can head on over to Ko-Fi. I actually have a Ko-Fi page, which you can head on over to. You can either do a one-time donation or you can do a monthly donation. Let's see here. I also have a buy me a coffee. Let's see. For some reason, it's not coming up. There it is. Let's see. So you can go over to buy me a coffee. Once again, you can do one-time donation, monthly donation. So you can check that out. I need as much support as possible because I am literally viewer and listener supported. That's it. I don't take sponsors. I don't run ads. So this is pretty much what I do. So any support is appreciated. I do understand not everyone can afford it and times are tough. So there are ways that you can help support otherwise. The other ways, hit the like, share, subscribe. You don't understand how exactly important that is. The big tech overlords have made it so I won't get out unless you guys share it. So if you found this useful, please hit the share, like, subscribe, all of those wonderful things. You can also head on over to, let's see here, Beware the Mockingbird, which is my Substack. I've got a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out over there. So make sure and go subscribe. It will get sent straight to your email. This will be home base for Rise to Liberty and Beware the Mockingbird and everything I'm working on. And then last but not least, let's see. Oops. You can head on over to my store, which is risetoliberty.store. If you want to be able to get something from supporting the channel, this is one of the best ways you can do it. You can go on over, go get yourself a premium t-shirt, a hoodie, long sleeve. We've got this really cool mind control design, 1960s kind of mind control design. Also have these really nice MK Ultra mind control designs. It looks like the new large sizes made it. So, go all the way up to 5XL if you need. So yeah, make sure and go check out everything we got going on over there. Otherwise, check me out on Instagram, X, or Telegram. Anywhere you can find at Rise to Liberty or at Rise to Liberty Pod. I want to thank you all again. Tune in next week. And until next time, stay free, my friends.